See, the big difference with these overdrive top loader cases is it has a huge cut right here because the counter gears are massive for where third gear is. In order to assemble it, it needs to have somewhere to drop. At this point in the assembly, once you've assembled the shaft for the reverse idler counter gear, which spins off of the first gear, you install the shift fork for reverse, but don't set the set screw yet. But first you have to install the spring and the little detent that goes in there. That looks just like this, but it is longer. Do not mix them up or you won't be able to shift. Everything will just be locked up. And that's in reverse. That's out of reverse. So I placed these bearings here using grease, and they should stay in there, but if you're going to use this method, just be very careful. There is a washer to temporarily glue them on with some grease as well. Now, as far as assembly of the main shaft, this particular main shaft is very different on two instances from a performance 4-speed. So I had to modify mine. I had to make a shim out of the old third gear. Believe me, it worked. And I also had to cut on the shaft in order to place the second gear snap ring, because the second gear and third gear bearing surface area is in different locations. Kind of hold first gear in place. And just kind of sort of lower everything in. And there you go. Now, before doing anything else, the next step is going to be to put your 3 and 4 shift rod. The interlock I've already placed above this particular shift rod. So now it's time to install the actual fork. Here it is right here. Now this key piece, there it is smaller than the rest, and it is important. So I use grease to hold it in while you're trying to install it, because that is what makes the other interlocks. This is the interlock, the other ones are detents. That is exactly what makes them move up and down as needed. Now, the position's this way. You're facing up on this hole, and these 2 grooves, 3 grooves, are for the other interlock. The bottom goes down, and that's up. Yep, hammer time. Now remember, you don't want to be wailing on nothing, because if you're actually hammering on stuff, well, clearly it's not fitting right? And the second reason is cluster bearings you installed are going to become very quickly uninstalled because they're only held on by grease. Now, when 3 and 4 are lined up, you'll then be able to install the retainer. But the way you'll know it's lined up is because the little detent you dropped in there, which is smaller than this, is going to line up with all those others. So then you could drop this one in. Well, after copious amounts of swearing, hard to see. You can't say, I could barely see it. Anyways, it's in there, and then you could then install the 1 and 2, this thing. It goes right there. So, kind of wrestle it in, line it up with the shifter. These two things right here, you're going to have to buy a lawn reach hex tool. Trying to do them with just a regular key just simply isn't going to work. They're the same. It doesn't really matter which one you use. Of the two springs, it's the little spring that goes in here. Detent drops in, spring goes in. And you chase it with this ugly bolt. The rear bearing is easy enough to install. What you do is you gotta flip the case on its vertical side and rest the nose of the gear, the entire drivetrain assembly, against something hard, like a hardened half-inch drive impact socket of some sort, or something hard. Have somebody balance the case for you, and then use a drift and press it in using a light hammer or a pipe or something, and working your way around using the inner race. Don't try to use the actual bearings. Anyways, it's a little dirty. Try to keep it clean. If you use bearing grease to keep these rollers in place before installing your input shaft and your cluster gear as well, you're going to have a lot better results. There you go. I'm going to use the busted up thing as a hammer. And there you go. What you have here is a first gear that's not engaged. The synchro is lined up with the 3 synchro pieces. Well, it's not first, but it's the first gear. What this is 4th gear. When you shift over, and you can start tightening these down. Alright, the very last thing you got to do, internally anyway, is install this shaft. This one's cold. But you use packing grease, or bearing grease, sorry. And you pack the roller bearings in there so they stay. I lost one, I just put it in with my fingers. Kind of a delicate operation. You got to make sure they're all accounted for. Not because, I mean, they're all needed, so you can't have extras, but because any metal pieces in the transmission itself will result in catastrophic damage. Make sure it's lined up. Rubber mallet. And in theory, anyways, okay, it's good to go, so you can get it one good whack with the reel hammer. Just try to limit your reel hammer use. Alright guys, so this is a 4-speed I put together using a really cheap overdrive 4-speed case. the guts out of a wide ratio small block 4-speed and some modifications.